everyone, welcome back to Velvet Moments. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the most unforgettable moments are not the loudest ones? Not the grand performances, not the planned appearances, and not even the moments everyone expects to remember. Sometimes the most meaningful stories are hidden in quiet details. A glance, a small gesture, or simply two people choosing to spend time together when no one is really watching. And tonight's story feels exactly like that. What happened between Jungkook and Jimin may have looked simple on the surface, but for those who pay attention to the little things, this moment felt surprisingly special. A quiet night, an unexpected return, and once again two familiar figures reminding everyone why the smallest interactions can leave the biggest impression. So let's talk about why this simple nighttime comeback has fans feeling emotional all over again. That night felt different, though at first no one could quite explain why. It wasn't louder, brighter, or more extravagant than any other night. In fact, it was quieter, softer. The kind of night that most people would overlook without a second thought. And yet, for those who noticed, it became something unforgettable. Earlier that morning, BTS had been seen leaving their hotel together, just like they always do. Moving as one, surrounded by staff, schedules, and the familiar rhythm of their busy lives. There was laughter, casual conversations, and that comforting sense of unity that fans have come to associate with them over the years. Everything felt normal. Predictable even. But as the day passed and the city slowly slipped into the calm of night, something unexpected happened. Two figures quietly reappeared, this time alone. Jeon, Jungkook, and Park Jimin were spotted returning together, just the two of them. No other members. No large entourage. No loud commotion. Just a quiet moment shared under the dim glow of the night. And somehow, that simplicity made it feel even more powerful. To an outsider it might not seem like much. Two friends spending time together after a long day. Something people do all the time. But with Jungkook and Jimin, things are rarely that simple, especially for those who have followed their journey closely. Because what they share has always gone beyond what words can easily define. There was something in the way they walked side by side that night. Not rushed, not distracted, just present. As if for once time had slowed down just enough to let them breathe. To exist outside the expectations placed on them. To step away even briefly from the roles they carry every single day. In that moment they weren't global superstars. They were just Jungkook and Jimin. And maybe that's what made it so emotional for so many people. Over the years, fans have noticed the quiet details. The subtle, almost invisible interactions that happen between them. The way Jungkook instinctively looks for Jimin in a crowded space. The way Jimin's expression softens when Jungkook is near. The unspoken understanding that seems to pass between them without effort. These aren't grand gestures meant for the stage. They're small, fleeting moments. But they stay. And that night, it felt like all those small moments came together. There were no flashing cameras capturing every second. No choreography. No performance. Just the stillness of the night and the quiet presence of two people who seemed completely at ease with each other. Some fans later described it as a quiet comeback. Not a comeback in the traditional sense. No album, no announcement, no stage. But something more personal. A return. To each other. It's a beautiful way to look at it, honestly. Because in a world where everything is constantly being watched, recorded, and analyzed, moments like this feel rare. Genuine. Almost fragile. And maybe that's why they resonate so deeply. Because they remind us that even in the middle of chaos, connection can still exist in the simplest forms. No one really knows what they talked about that night. Maybe it was something light, jokes, memories, random thoughts after a long day. Or maybe it was something deeper. Something they could only share when the noise of the world faded away. Whatever it was, it belonged to them. And perhaps that's exactly how it should be. There's something quietly comforting about knowing that despite everything, the fame, the pressure, the expectations, they still choose to spend time together. Not because they have to, not because it's part of a schedule, but because they want to. Because somewhere in between all the responsibilities, they still find space for something real. Something steady. Something that doesn't need to be explained. Moments like this don't come with dramatic headlines or official confirmations. They don't need to. Their meaning isn't in how loudly they're announced, but in how deeply they're felt. And for those who saw it or even just heard about it, that night became more than just a simple outing. It became a reminder that the most meaningful connections are often the quietest ones. That sometimes, the strongest bonds don't need to be shown to the world to be real. And that even in the busiest lives, people will always make time for what matters most. Maybe we'll never know the full story behind that night. Maybe we're not meant to. But one thing is certain. In that quiet return, in that simple act of choosing to be together again, Jungkook and Jimin created a moment that didn't need words to be understood. A moment that lingered. A moment that stayed. A moment that, in its silence, said everything. Purple Heart. And as this quiet night slowly fades into memory, what remains isn't a headline or a confirmed story, but a feeling. A feeling that something meaningful happened even without words. Because moments like this don't need explanations. They don't need to be labeled or defined to matter. Sometimes just knowing that two people chose to be together even for a short while is enough to leave a lasting impression. Jeon, Jungkook and Park Jimin have always shared something that feels quiet, natural and deeply sincere. And nights like this only remind us of that even more. Maybe we'll never know the full story behind what really happened. But maybe we don't need to. Because in the end, the most beautiful connections are often the ones that are felt, not explained. Thank you for being here with Velvet Moments and for seeing the beauty in the smallest details. Until the next story, stay soft, stay curious and keep noticing the moments that others might miss. Purple Heart.
Jimin! Jimin! Jikook! 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 You're my home! I love you!